Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. I mean, 2 videos in like 1 week. What is this? This is madness! So, you may have thought that Conquering Tide was dead, but you were wrong. I've actually, obviously I am a working professional now and, oh that sounds so fancy. Yeah, I'm a working professional, god. No. Obviously I work during the week and I only have weekends off because when I get home I'm just like, God, I don't want to do anything, I just want to sit down and be a couch potato. So I've only had time to work on bits and pieces on weekends. But I've still been writing Conquering Tide and adapting it to be a comic. And it is getting there, and we're going to have the first panel, I'm going to have the first panel out, most likely before Briarfest, so at least you'll have, whilst I won't be at Briarfest, you can have something to talk about and be like, oh, this is kind of cool, I don't know, who knows. But basically there have been a few changes. I've had to change some of the characters' names, so what I've got here is... This is called a character alignment chart, and usually you get a 3x3 version, but this is a 5x5, and it's what they use in games like Dungeons and Dragons to set up characters for the game, so it shows how your main characters can be different from each other, even if it's just subtly. So I've not filled it all out, and also I want to keep the evils kind of secret, because obviously I don't want to spoil the villains, because a few things have changed with regards to that. But you know, I've got to keep some things secret for the comics. So basically what I'm doing here, I'm just dropping in the characters' names where their profile fits, and with each one I'm going to talk about the characters. So we're going to have a series of going to do a little sketch of the character, and I'm going to fill out the boxes with each one. So, a lot of characters are going to get name changes, and I will go into that when I approach each character so we can have a chat about it. Basically, I want to disassociate with some of the god names, some of the more popular ones, because a lot of people were getting confused, thinking like, oh, Odin is Neptune's dad? What's with that? It's a Norse god, he's got a Roman god's son, and shouldn't Thor be his son if you're trying to be using god names? No, I just picked them because they sounded good at the time, so I need to dissociate from that, and we need to change some of the names. But we'll go into that later. We're going to start with Lawful Good, which is Romulus. So I'm just going to be doing light sketches. This is not how the final characters are going to look in the comics. I need to have a vote on how you want that to look. It's either going to be like a fine line, not a fine line, either going to be like a textured line, so it looks like it's been sketched but nicely drawn, so it's not like a complete crisp line, or it's going to be lineless, which does take a little bit more time to make, but can look pretty. So I'll do an example of 2 characters next to each other in both styles, and you can take a vote on how you want the comics to look. So Romulus is a great character. He is like adopted big brother to Gaia. He's always looking out for her, he's looking out for the other youngsters. He would ideally like to be in a higher ranking in the herd one day, and he's a pretty genuine character, and I'm quite attached to him. I'm an only child myself, and when I was writing Conquering Tide, like a lot of little bits of me have gone into this, and he is like the older brother that I never had, I guess. But also when it comes to putting his hoof down, he will do that in full force. So we're just sketching him out here. There's a few changes I need to make. He's actually got a very straight profile. He's not too dissimilar to Loki. His physique is based on a thoroughbred's, but he's also got this cool mohawk, which is, it's kind of cool because now that I'm drawing the comics, I can actually get more character into each character, if you know what I mean. So we can have more variation on each character, and I mean, he contrasts really nicely to Mars because Romulus is kind of tall and lanky, but sturdily built. Whilst Mars, his best friend, is more curvy and has curly mad hair, and Romulus is more straight because he likes to play by the rules, but you know, Mars gets him into a bit of trouble. So the actual characters in the comics are going to be slightly textured. I kind of like that textured look, and not many people have done it. I mean, a lot of the comics I've seen out there for not just horses, I mean, for wolves and other animal characters, they tend to be pretty clean, like normal comics. So I want my comics to look a little bit handmade, like I've actually drawn them in my house, if that makes any sense. But yeah, Romulus has got this cool, like, straight mohawky thing going on. He's got a very straight profile, very straight features. He's got quite a straight neck, triangular-ish. He's got almondy shaped eyes, but not quite as sort of oblong as Gaia. Now his eyes are smaller in this one because he's a young adult here. So obviously our comics start off with Gaia being the equivalent of a human age to being about 13 years old. The horses are going to have more human ages in the comics because it just makes a little bit more sense, and you get more of a grasp on how old they are, rather than saying like horse years, you know, by the time they're 1 year old they look like teenagers, but in this case she's going to be 13 and being almost like a yearling, shall we say. So that's where our comics start off. Now I'm just painting in Romulus here. Now the actual model that I used for Romulus was on the cigar mold, and he was a dark bay. So Romulus is actually more of a steel grey black. He's got a slight purple tint on him. I actually didn't realise I was painting in grayscale for the start of this, so I was trying to pick all these colours and then not realising that, oh, actually it's all in grey. So I add a little bit more colour later on, but he's a slight sort of bluey purpley tint on kind of steely grey, and he's got his classic stripe like in the series, so I kept that feature in, so he's still recognisable as the Romulus you knew and loved. And he hasn't changed that much, but obviously we can write a lot more into his character now, and he'll be a lot more interesting. So that's it for part 1 of the character alignment chart that I'm working on. Stay tuned for more, and you can just hear me talk about the characters. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments, I'll get back to you. Follow me on Instagram at Cinnamon Studios. We have a lot going on there. I always release stuff on the Instagram before I do anything on YouTube, so get in touch with me on that too if you need to tag me in anything or message me. Do what I can to get back to you. Because the YouTube system for messaging now is pretty much non-existent. I really don't like what's happening to YouTube. It's just Google+, what are you doing? So yeah, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more.